Okay, today we continue with Job. We're in Job chapter 20, with Zophar puts in his 2 cents. And again, the arguments remain pretty basic. God takes care of those through goodness that he appreciates and he approves, and those that don't, he tears down, and that's not where Job is going. He goes, therefore do my thoughts cause me to answer, and for this I make haste. Hastily talking, that's usually not a good sign. I have heard the check of my reproach, and the spirit of my understanding causes me to answer. In other words, his understanding. Knowest thou not of old, since man was placed on the earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite is for a moment? Again, not going to anything current, going back to older men, going back to older theologies and suppositions, things that they've been taught. And for Job, this is firsthand. This is actually happening to me, like I've said several times. He makes the thing that the prosperity of the wicked shall fly away like a dream and shall not be found. His eyes, which have seen him, shall see him no more. His children shall seek to please the poor, and his hands will restore their goods. So if you've been evil, your children will restore. They have this whole cause and effect thing going on. His bones are full of sin from his youth, which shall lie down with him in the dust. Though wickedness be sweet in his tongue, though he hide it under his tongue. This is a deceitful person. At the end of the day, when he gets to the bottom here, he's going through all of this, and here's why. This person has swallowed up riches, and he has vomited them up again. God shall cast it out of his belly. In 19, his argument is because he has oppressed and has forsaken the poor, because he has violently taken away a house that was built not. Surely he shall not feel quietness in his belly. Now this, because he has oppressed, he's again throwing this back on Job. You must have oppressed somebody for God to treat you this way. You must have taken from the widow for God to treat you this way. And again, that's been his argument, and the argument of Bildad was, you're already in jail, so you're guilty. And so he goes making this. In the fullness of his sufficiency he shall come upon straits, every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. God shall cast fury of his wrath upon him, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. He will flee from the iron weapon, and the bow of steel shall strike him through, and it is drawn and come out of the body. Yea, the glistening sword coming out of his gall, terrors are within him. The idea of being pierced through because you are wicked. And who's the you here? Of course, the you is Job. Heaven shall reveal his iniquity, and the increase of his house shall depart, and his goods shall flow away in the day of wrath. This is the portion of the wicked man from God, and the heritage appointed to him by God. So God is doing this. And they build these straw man arguments. Job, I love this part. I've mentioned this one several times about Job. Hear diligently my speech, and let this be your consolations. Suffer me to speak, and after I have spoken, mock on. I love that one. I've said that one several times. As for me, it's my complaint to man. If it were so, why should not my spirit be troubled? Mark me and be astonished, and lay your hand upon your mouth. Ever when I remember, I am afraid and tremble, and trembling takes hold of my flesh. Therefore do the wicked live, shall become old. Yea, the mighty in power, their seed is established in their sight, and with them and their offspring before their eyes. The houses are safe from fear, neither is the rod of God upon them. The bull gendereth and faileth not, his cows calve, and casteth not off her calf. They send forth their little ones as a flock, and their children dance. See, the good are actually the evil. I've seen the evil prospering. I've seen the evil doing things like this. But they are not being trodden down. If anything, they live in safety. They don't have any fear from God. Their bulls gendered and fails not. Their cows calve, and they increase. Their children dance with timbrel and with harp and rejoice. They spend their days in wealth, and in a moment go down to the grave. Wherefore say to God, therefore they say unto God, depart from us, for we desire not the knowledge of thy ways. What is the Almighty that we should serve him, and what profit should we have if we pray unto him? These people are doing fine without God in their own eyes. And so, again, the idea that this is, Job is going back to what he's seen, not what all people have seen. He's not going back to the theologies that should fit the world, but how the world actually is. And he looks around and sees the truth of God around. And if we see Romans 1, we understand that looking to the truth of God around you, not just into the minds of men. And he goes on talking about this. Lo, the good is not in their hand, the counsel of the wicked is far from me. How oft is the candle of the wicked put out, and how oft their destruction upon them. God distributed sorrows in his anger. He will come after the wicked. But it seems like he says here, that one dieth full of strength, being whole and at ease and quiet. His breasts are full of milk, and his bones are moistened with marrow. Another dieth in the bitterness of his soul, and never eateth with pleasure. They shall lie down alike in the dust, and the worm shall cover them. To the point, and we saw this in Ecclesiastes, kind of what happens to you here isn't a direct correlation to the justice of God, to the judgment of God. You know, that's going to come later. They both go down in the dirt. They both in the dust. So he's not drawing the same correlation in this world as the other three men are. And so he talks about how, and they lay down in the dust. Moreover, I know your thoughts and devices, that you have wrongly imagined against me. You are making up fables about me. For you know, where is the house of the prince? For you say, where is the house of the prince, and where is the dwelling places of the wicked? Have you not asked them that go by the way, and have you not known their tokens, that the wicked is reserved to the day of destruction? They shall be brought forth to the day of wrath. So the idea, there is a day of destruction, there is a day of wrath. Who shall declare this unto his face, and who shall repay it? And it shall be brought, and he shall be brought to the grave, and remain in the tomb. The clods of the valley shall be sweet unto him, and every man shall draw after him. How then comfort me in vain, seeing in your answers there remaineth falsehood? You're speaking falsehood. You're not looking at the way things are. You're looking at the way you think things should be. So we have him responding to Zophar, and again, these arguments go back and forth. I do want to see that Eliphaz here, he comes back and is saying, can man be profitable before God? That's the point that he's trying to make. Can a man be profitable before God? What can man do to profit God? Can man get above God? Can man actually judge God? In a sense, he's drawing against his own argument, because by your good works you kind of judge God. Well, you can be good to me now. Be good to me because of what I've done. Can a man be profitable? As he that is wise shall be profitable in himself. Is it any pleasure to the Almighty that thou art righteous, or does it gain him? What does he get out of you being righteous? That's what the argument that he's making here. How does it benefit God if you're righteous or not? You sit there and say that you're righteous before God, but what's the point? Will he reprove thee for fear of thee? Will he enter into judgment? Is not thy wickedness great, and thy iniquities infinite? For thou hast taken pledge from thy brother for naught, and stripped the naked of their clothing. Now he's starting to make personal accusations against Job. And that's what he's doing here. He's really getting personal. Have you not given water? Thou hast not given water to the weary, and thou hast withheld in bread. And as for the mighty man, he hath the earth, and the honorable man dwells in it. Thou hast sent widows away empty, and the arms of the fatherless have been broken. Therefore snares are about thee, and sudden fear troubleth you. Of darkness thou shalt not see, and abundance of waters cover thee. Yeah, he's saying you've done these things. That's why you're here. Again, he's borrowing a little bit from Bildad and Zophar. You're in prison, you must be guilty, kind of thing. You must have done these things. Is not God high in the heavens? And behold the height of the stars. And thou sayest, how can God know? He is in thick dark clouds. Thick clouds are covering him, and he sees not. Thou hast marked the old ways which wicked men have trodden, which we cut down out of time, whose foundation overflowed with a flood, which say unto God, depart from us. And what can the Almighty do unto them? He's again attacking Job's character. You've done these things. You've spoken against God. That's why this is happening, obviously. Obviously, you've spoken against God and did these horrible things to the widows and the poor, because this is happening to you. We see their arguments again and again. And you said that God depart from us, yet he fills What can the Almighty do? Yet he filled their house with good things, but the counsel of the wicked is far from me. The righteous see it and are glad, and the innocent laugh them to scorn. So the righteous and the innocent laugh at the wicked. Wow, that doesn't sound very Christian, of course. Doesn't sound very good, of course. Nowhere was the Israelites told to laugh at the wicked. They were supposed to have compassion on the stranger and compassion on the servants that they had. They were supposed to be a compassionate people. And this doesn't sound anywhere near compassionate. Whereas the righteous see it and they're glad, whereas our substance is not condemned, but the remnant of them fire consumes. Acquaint thyself with him and be at peace. Therefore good shall come to thee. Now that sounds very much televangelist. Acquaint yourself with God and good will come to you. And that's where Job, that's again the sticking point, is exactly diametric to what Job was saying. No, you acquaint yourself with God, there's no guarantee good happens to you because God is God. If you return to the Almighty, thou shalt be built up and put away iniquity from your tabernacles. Then shall you lay up gold as dust, and the gold of Zophar and the stones of the brooks. Yea, the Almighty will be thy defense, and thou wilt have plenty of silver. You'll have gold and silver if you follow God. My gosh, they can't even see what they're saying here. And that if thou shalt lift up a prayer unto him, and he shall hear thee, and thou shalt pay thy vows, thou shalt also decree a thing, and it shall be established. And the light shall shine upon thy ways. I mean, he did this before in another argument, where he really took this and became very flowery and eloquent. I think his first argument was this. When men are cast down, then thou shalt say, there is lifting up, and he shall save the humble person, and he shall deliver the island of the innocent, and is delivered by the pureness of thine hands. Oh, the pureness of thy hands. I mean, you'll be able to preach to others. You'll be able to be an evangelist to others. So this is, again, Eliphaz is stepping in here with this same argument. But Job says, even today my complaint is bitter, my stroke is heavier than my groaning. Oh, that I might find him, that I might come unto his seat. I would order my cause before him and fill my mouth with arguments. I would say the words which he would answer me, and understand what he would say unto me. Will he plead against me with his great power? No, he will put power in me. He's saying that if there was a court, I'd love to go plead my case. I'd love to go take my case and say no. I'm not saying you're evil, but I'm saying there was no reason for this to happen. Even God said this without a cause. Even Job said this was without a cause. For them, there was a cause. And that's the problem right there. I would take this before him, Job says. Oh, that I could go to God. Oh, that I could go and I would plead my case. He would not go against me for pleading my case, but he would actually strengthen me. There the righteous might dispute with him, so that I be delivered forever from my judge. Behold, I go forward, but he's not there. I go backward, and he's not there. I go to the left hand, and I go to the right, but he knoweth the ways I take. When he has tried me, I will come out as gold. When he has tried me through this, when I see him, I've gone forward to find him, or backward to the side, but he knows my comings and goings. My foot has held his steps, his ways have I kept and not declined. Neither have I gone back from the complaint of my lips. I have esteemed the words of my mouth more than my necessary food. He watches his words. He esteems his mouth more than his own food. I'm going to make sure that I don't say anything amiss, that I watch what I say. Neither have I gone back, but he is one mind, and who can turn him? And what his soul desires, even he doeth. For he performs this thing that is appointed unto me, and many such things are of him. Therefore I trouble at his presence, and therefore I am afraid of him. For God maketh my heart soft, and the Almighty troubleth me, because I was not cut off from the darkness, neither hath he covered the darkness from my face. But even though I'm righteous, he wants to do this thing. Who's going to sway him? Who's going to say, you can't? Now, I know later on Moses does that. You can't. And I think another prophet says to God, you can't, because you gave your word. You said you would not, that you would take care of this people and build out of these people, and you made your promises to Abraham. But this is not in that realm. This also shows the people that are not in that Abrahamic covenant could get to Yahweh, known as El Elyon, also known as El, known as the Almighty God. And so he even uses the word Lord, which is Yahweh in here, and therefore the writer superimposes Yahweh into the story, which is fine. And so he's talking about this. Why, seeing the times are not hidden from the Almighty, do they know him? Do not see him in his days? Some remove landmarks. They violently take away flocks. They drive away the ass of the fatherless. They turn the needy out of their way. Behold, as wild asses in the desert, go they forth to do their work. They reap, everyone his corn in the field, and take the vintage of the wicked. They cause the naked to lie without clothing, and they have no covering in the cold. He's talking about other people now. Chapter 24 is the evidence against man. Chapter 23 is the evidence for himself and for God. If you were in a court, here you go. Here's my evidence for myself and for God, but now the evidence against man. And he talks about it. Some remove landmarks. They drive away the asses of the fatherless. They take the widow's ox. They turn the needy out of the way. They are like wild asses in the desert. They reap corn and gather vintage of the wicked. They cause the naked to lodge without clothing. These people are wet by the showers of the mountain and embrace the rocks for shelter. They pluck the fatherless from the breast and take a pledge of the poor. They cause him to go naked without clothing, and they take away the sheaf from the hungry. This is what men do to prosper. He's again making this point against man, so that he might see. Men groan out of the cities, and the soul of the wounded cry out, yet God layeth not folly to them. Even though they're doing all of this, he is not judging them yet about it. They are those that rebel against the light. The murderer rising up when the light killeth the poor and the needy, and in the night the thief. The eye of the adulterer waiting for the twilight, saying, no man shall see. They dig into houses and mark them in the daytime so they can come back at the night and steal. They do that. They will mark a house, and then we're going to come back later to this house and steal from it. As the shadow of death, if one know them, they are in the terrors of the shadow of death. He is swift as the waters, their portion is cursed in the earth. Drought and heat consumed the snow waters, so doth the grave come on all that have sinned. So he's making this point that all these people have sinned. They've done all these things. They've taken from the poor. They've taken from the widow. They've taken and they've been adulterers and thieves and murderers. But the grave is coming for those that sin. The womb shall forget him, and the worm shall feed sweetly on him. He gets a little dark here. His evil entreateth the barren that beareth not, and doeth not good to the widow. He draweth forth the mighty with his power. He rises up, and no man is sure for his life. He's going down to the death. They were exalted but a little while, and they are gone, and they are low. And let's see, they are exalted for a little while, but are gone and brought low. They are taken out of the way as all other, and cut off as the tops of the ears of corn. And if there be not so, who will make a liar and make my speech worth nothing? Again, he's saying this testament in chapter 23 and 24 is that God, I'm giving you my evidence for me. I'm giving you the evidence for God. And I'm giving you evidence against man, and how man will be judged. There is a time coming that he will go to the grave, and for some people the worm will die sweetly. And if it not be so, who will make me a liar? You've seen these things yourself. And I love where I'm going to do this little Bildad, and then I'm going to do Job tomorrow. Bildad has to throw in his 2 cents worth. He will not let this go. He goes, dominion and fear are with him. He maketh peace in high places. If there is any number of his enemies, and upon whom doth not his light shine? How can man be justified with God? How can he be clean that is born of woman? Even so to the moon, and it shineth not, and the stars are not pure in his sight. How much less is man, that is a worm, and the son of man, which is a worm? He's going back. He's doubling down on his argument. How can you be just? How can you just before God? And when we see Job, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chapters, which I won't try to roar through, and then comes Elihu. But again, the idea of Bildad, going back to his, but who can be just before God? Maybe Bildad wants to know, but maybe he's saying there's no way we can know if we can be just before God, and that would make God unjust. Think about that. If you can't know how you can be just before God, then that would make God unjust. He's got to let you know how to be just. So we finished off all of their arguments. The rest of Job will now go to, Job does a final closing soliloquy. Then Elihu comes into play, and here comes the Lord talking, and we finish it off. But you've seen their arguments up to this point, and if you were sitting in a jury seat and you weren't biased, which is hard for us Christians not to be, we're biased for Job, you see their arguments, and they're weak, they're cyclic, they're even attacking, and he does get snarky, I'll give him that, but these people have gone at him 10 times trying to prove their case. They don't care about him. They just care about being theologically correct. Well, unfortunately, they aren't. And they aren't to the extent in the very end that God says, you spoke wrongly about me. We need to be afraid of those words. You spoke wrongly about me. That should create fear in us. So let's make sure we read the grid and get God right. It's very important. It's very important to him. If it's not important to us, I don't know why, but it is important to him that he be just. Like with Abraham. He said, will not the God of the universe do what is right? Now, there's a man that knows his God. Thank you.